And there we go. Welcome, everybody. It's Saturday night, new channel, new faces. Let's drop the shame. Well, after the shame. I didn't want to call it drop the shame. Yeti can't make it. So here's the story. Yeti could not make it tonight. So we are here, Nikki B and I, and we're going to have an hour-long conversation about addiction, about recovery, and about hope. And we didn't want to leave tonight blank with Yeti. Yeti has actually a dental emergency, so there's nothing he could do to be on. So here we are. We're glad you're here. And Nikki B, how are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm out of the hospital. 50% better than I was when I went in. So
50% is better than 10%. So you are good.
Yep, I'm on my way to hopefully a full recovery. I know that I got a lot of work behind me to do. So
absolutely. Well, I appreciate you being here and doing this with me tonight. We were a little disheveled, so I'll tell you if it seems like we are coming across a little disheveled and a little maybe. First off, I'm an alcoholic. I'm a drunk, and so everything I do is pretty much disheveled. If you've ever watched my show, you know this. But we kind of just threw this together at the last minute. I've never went live through Zoom on my channel, so Nikki was kind enough to walk me through that on how to do everything. So if it appears that we don't know or if I don't know what the heck I'm doing, it's because I really don't know what the heck I'm
doing. He's going to find it's a little bit easier than just going through everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so used to doing it right from YouTube. So doing it through Zoom is different. But I'm really glad I got the experience because I'd like to have guests on, on the show. And I've always thought about it, but I was kind of intimidated to do it. So
I just don't like Google Hangouts because it makes it feel like if you don't have it clicked right, more than one person, it's like a seizure.
Yeah, it goes back and forth,
you can't
right?
see the lips moving, and it's, I don't know, if Google just would maybe take the next leap of faith of maybe improving on it, because they have a lot of features that Zoom doesn't have, which Zoom, if you're listening, you need to get a volume control.
Right? I wish, and it does. So what people typically do is I would go through OBS and then onto Zoom, and that way I'd have the volume control for everybody. But yeah. So anyway, we really appreciate, I know it was short notice. We didn't have a chance to send anything out to advise that it had moved channels. I want to apologize in advance for those who were looking for this on Yeti's uncle's channel. Maybe you found this up after the fact. I apologize. Again, it was not planned.
Share the link to everybody. That way people know it's here.
Yeah, if people want to join in and absolutely share the link, and we can bring as many people in as we can. So anyway, thank you for being here. My name is Scott. I'm an alcoholic. Drop the Shame After the Shame is a recovery-based program. We try to bring together the good, what we have done in our addiction, what we went through, and then what happens now that we're in recovery. I'm a recovering alcoholic, as most people know. I've been in recovery now for almost about a year and 3 or 4 months. And typically Yeti's with me. Yeti's also in recovery. Tonight we have Nikki, who is going to give her views on some things. Nikki, what's your experience with, have you had addiction in your family with loved ones?
Well, I had an alcoholic as a grandfather. I was addicted to cigarettes, smoking. Well, I was a soda addict. I mean, I know that people don't look at food as an addiction, which I would smoke and drink every day. Not drinking alcohol or anything like that, but I would drink 2 liters of soda every day and cigarettes. Not eat anything in the morning or afternoon, and I would eat a big meal at night, and I gained weight that way. Also, not knowing I had a thyroid condition, which I found that out later in life. But a couple years later, I quit drinking. I can say I decreased my soda intake because I still drink soda, like clear sodas and stuff like that. But I try to maintain of what my intake of soda is, because I know how it did my body. It made me from, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I should be ashamed. I was over 600 pounds. I'm now down to 150 pounds lighter, but I'm still fat. And I'm told this on a daily basis, that I'm big, and I don't need a reminder. I see it every day, but that the thing is, I think bullies were attracted to me. So I guess their addiction is to pick on me.
Yeah.
So I found this out, late as growing up as a kid to now, food was my comfort too. So it was kind of like going home and mom's like, oh, here, you had a bad day. Here you go.
You know what? That's the whole thing with, the shame aspect of it is, a lot of the shame that we feel on ourselves, it comes from other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, in your situation versus, it's different from my situation because a lot of mine was self-inflicted. You know what I mean? My drinking, I did to myself. Gaining weight or looking different than somebody else, that is not something that you can really control to a certain extent, right? Especially with problems and things like that.
My family was never supportive of they were always body image. They were always like, oh, well, you have a pretty face, but you're fat. They would give you a positive and give you a negative in the same sentence.
The poop sandwich, when they throw the at the end of the compliment, right?
Yeah. And it'd be like, oh, you think I'm pretty? Oh. And then it's like, just take it away. And it hurts. It stings worse than it does. And people don't realize that it can lead to depression, which could lead to other addictions in life to make you feel better, because you want something to make you feel better. And if you find that and you become addicted to it and you want to have it more and more and more, that's where I think the addictive personality, like me, I always find different things that I like to do. And I throw myself into it, and I'll push myself to the fullest extent to the point where I'm exhausted, and then it's like I don't know when to say stop.
Right.
So
one thing. So tonight, tonight, Yeti and I didn't have a guest, but we did have a topic, and what we had talked about was something that actually I get asked a lot about, and what it's called cross addiction. And for those who are unaware, cross addiction is when you trade one addiction for another addiction. And I'll give you an example. In my case, I traded, alcoholism, which was, my drug of choice, for YouTube and going live and doing live shows and things like that. Now, you can say, well, that's not really, an addiction per se. You're not putting anything in your body and things like that. It's kind of like, and it's not a damaging type addiction now, but there's caveats to that because it can damage, family life and things like that if you do it, too much. And so I kind of wanted to discuss that and get feedback from you guys. That was our main concern today, to kind of throw that out there and see what everybody thought. And one thing that people had mentioned to me before is when I started building coils, I was doing it while I was still drinking. But when I got out of treatment is when I really, really started getting into it. When I get into something, like we talked about this 100 times, I can't just have to it. You know what I mean? I have to basically go 100% into everything that I do. And so I really, really got into coil building. And when I say that, I was building every day. I was watching every video I could find about it. It was an obsession for the most part of figuring out how to do all this stuff. And somebody asked me one time, well, didn't you just trade addictions? And what that is cross addiction. And, I thought about it and I was like, yeah, I probably did, quite frankly. But at the same time, I felt like it was something that was healthier for me. I wasn't destroying my family. I wasn't destroying my body. I wasn't destroying my health. There was just no risk of me dying while I'm doing, this
family family time can actually be injured. And that's where a lot of, I can't talk right now. I'm in a live show, and it's like, oh, I just killed something that I needed to address. That's also that, the negatives and the positive with YouTube is that unless you are having your family into it and say, hey, during these hours, it's my job. This is what I do. This is what, it's kind of like a part-time job. We have to put our hearts and our feelings aside and say, hey, can you give me this, and talk to them too, because my family knows Saturdays between 9 and 11 was my live shows and Tommy shows and stuff like that. They're like, that's all weekend. I go, It's for a couple hours a day. You see me all day long, but you want to come in at those particular hours. That drives me nuts.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing that I try to do now, and is you try, the biggest thing an addict does is we try to manage our addiction. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I've talked to people about this before, but like with drinking, you say, I'm only going to drink, 2 beers tonight, or I'm only going to drink 1 beer an hour for whatever. You try to manage it. That is like quintessential, like alcoholism right there. And I feel like I kind of do that now with some of the stuff that I do. Like, I'm only going to do 1 show a day, and I'm only going to do it from 5 till 6 and things like that. And I think there is ways to manage it, but I think ultimately what I have to do, the mindset that I have to is I can take it or leave it. I can either, do my show or not do my show, or I can build coils or not build coils. I can't be fully like revolving around that type of event. That's really the key to not letting it overwhelm you or overtake you, where you can't like do anything but think about it. So I mean, it's something that I think a lot of, in the building community alone, there's a lot of people that are in recovery.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and a lot of people that we have on the show are builders that are in recovery. And for some reason, it satisfies something for me in my brain, that my brain, when you become an addict, your brain changes. And there's something in my brain that, building and doing live shows satisfies, and gives me something to look forward to, or whatever it actually does.
Right. It gives you happiness. Right.
It's something that gives me joy from doing it. And so, yeah, I mean, I think ultimately the whole, like the end result of the cross addiction thing is to actually, have some sort of balance with it in your life.
Right. Giving one bad addiction to a more positive addiction is the way that you have to put your mindset, is that it's not really changing. It is changing one addiction to another, because don't they teach you that in recovery, is finding something that you like and enjoy it. Finding something that, occupies your hands, occupies your time. Don't be bored. Don't be alone all the time. And even though you might be in your basement alone, or I might be in my house all by myself in a room, we're never alone. Millions of people across the world that are connected by, whether it's vaping, whether it's coil building, whether it's just YouTube in general.
Mm-hmm.
It is that you could touch somebody's life in one way, of that person, one person saying, hey, I talked to this one guy, and he really, he made sense. He might not sit there and remember your name, but you sit there, made him go out and vocally say what you said, and it does a chain effect. So in a sense, what you do on YouTube is a positive thing. It's not a negative, and you're putting out more positives in your life now, I see, then you're giving back of what you've lost.
I think, I appreciate that. I think it's, and I think, I don't know, I think I speak for the recovery community in general, that people in recovery, your job is to pay it forward to other people that are going through the same thing. And there's a level of understanding that that addicts have for each other, that we kind of know how things are, and that, there's not a whole lot of, there's a huge section of society that it's not, there's no compassion for, and I'm not saying there should be, in a sense that, you hear some of the terrible things that addicts do, and it's hard to have compassion for that. Right. I mean, you hear about like, somebody, a parent, neglecting or injuring a child because they're, high on alcohol or high on drugs, whatever.
You don't have compassion for that. But you can see where they were, you've been in that down slump yourself. So in a sense, that is compassion, because you're like, I feel for you because I've been there.
Right.
But I never let myself get that far. But that could have been their bottom, the lowest of lows.
Right.
That you never got to there, but you could have been there. And if you don't have like a strong household too, that also affects whether or not it went that low.
And, I think that the compassion that people should feel is when somebody is really, really trying to get help, or they don't understand how to get help. that's where, you know, you have to have compassion, but you also have to be very careful with addicts that you don't, you know, get step past where you're enabling them and not, you know,
Right.
which that's a whole nother thing, because addicts are extremely manipulative. When I'm drinking, I'm extremely manipulative. You know what I mean? I'll do whatever and say whatever I can say to get you to do what I need you to do so that I can continue to do what I'm doing.
Right.
So yeah, it's a very, very fine line.
Yeti is out in the audience.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll mention that again. Guys, everybody who's just joining in. First off, thanks for watching, guys. Like we just kind of threw this together, Nikki and I did, and we didn't want to not have a show tonight because we had, we'd already broadcast that we were going to have one. So here we are. It's about you guys tonight. We had a topic that Yeti and I were going to go over that we kind of kicked around a little bit. But really, if you guys have any questions or anything that you guys would like to talk about or cover,
type it in caps. That way.
Put it in caps, and we would certainly love to talk about it. This is just basically an hour. We're going to be on here till 10, and just anything, just open up the communication lines for people that, if you have somebody if you're struggling with addiction, or you have somebody that is struggling with addiction, then please feel free to join the conversation, and we'll just go from there. Yeah, Drew's putting some stuff in there.
Yep.
So, Drew, I'm going to read what you put. See, I struggle with self-medication. I've been making improvements, but I have a good ways to go. ADHD, anti-anxiety, depression, meds. That's not all at once. Hey, there's Yeti. What's up, Yeti? How you doing, man?
Yeah, he's out there for a minute. To replace his med for booze, it worked for a short time and then went on a shitty pity. But
I'm telling you, everybody's situation with recovery and with addiction is unique to them.
Right.
First off. So there's no way. And I think any addict will tell you that. Now, the first thing that an addict will tell you, or what I would tell somebody, is you're not unique. You're not unique. You're exactly like all of us. We're all exactly the same. There's no uniqueness in us at all. We will all continue to use unless we stop ourselves until we die. That's what we'll do. Well, I would drink myself to death if I don't do something every single day to stop myself from doing that. When you throw in a dual diagnosis where you have alcoholism, but you also have other issues, whether that be, physical issues or even more, something like a mental issue where you're trying to deal with, that's when it has to be under the care of a physician. That's the only way. And it has to be properly medicated. And, it's hard because, our bodies don't really react to medications like I don't think react to medications like a lot of people's do. And so you have to get that, whatever medication is working for you, make sure that you work directly with the physician about getting that.
And medications sometimes don't work long-term either. So you need to talk to your doctor. Just because they worked 2 years ago, your body can adjust, and actually they don't work. You're finding yourself either having to take more, like I've noticed that, ibuprofen is my friend, for pain. I used to take it once a day when I wake up because I was hurting, and then I noticed I'm taking it 3 times a day, and I'm going, is this okay? Was this doing long term? Yeah. And also mixing it in with gabapentin, which I found out that, is like a chemical thing. I don't know that, they mix very well together because they work together. But that's the thing that my doctor prescribes me for what I have. But also a number of things when I'm a crybaby. Okay. I've been a crybaby all my life. I cry on the, somebody looks at me funny, I cry. And yet doctors see that as a sign of weakness and depression. And they instantly go for that depression pill and say, here's your pill. You're depressed. I'm like, no, I'm just sad. I'm just sad. I'm not sad like I'm going to kill myself or anything like that. I'm just sad because I know what my life has become, and it's a wake up pill. I don't need that pill. I'm awake. Yeah. I know now what I didn't know then, and I'm trying to fix it. And it's just not a sorting. It's a Lego set. I have to build it up stronger. It keeps on falling down. Mm-hmm. Just make it stronger the next time around.
We got some questions coming in. So first question is from Raymond. he asks, do you think some vapors are addicted to vaping? So, Nikki, do you want to start with that?
Do you think some of vapors are addicted to vaping? Yes. I can admit right now, I have traded my addiction for smoking into vaping.
Yeah.
I've become the hobbyist. Yep. I like the shiny things. I'm attracted to building. I like working with my hands. I always have. And this gives me an outlet to do what I like to do. I've always been in front of the camera on another side of YouTube, but not on this one. And I'm like, hey, I like to review products, and these are coming out like left and right field, you know. And I'm like, I can do it. And I just love helping people find vaping, but I always tell them, try not to get to the hobby side. Find a happy vape and be on your merry way. Try not to get on this side of it, because it is an addiction. It truly is.
You know, let me explain to you how vaping is an addiction for me. And it is buying the new fancy stuff. So I have the neural truck, right? Well, I had to buy the Carnage RDA, which is $70, and it's a piece of garbage. It's a terrible RDA, but I had to get it so I could be matchy with my neural truck. So yeah, is it?
I'm not that much of an addict where I have to have the matchy.
Yeah,
but I'll find it co-matchy. You know, it might not match, like it might not been married together, but it looks really good together.
There you go. It's a little overhang though.
Oh no, there is no overhang.
Oh wow.
There is none. It is right to the. Actually, this mod sticks out a little bit further than that, but because it goes tapered out. But two different companies.
Yeah. Well, so we got, okay, here's a really good question. Getting your family who are not addicts to understand addiction. Okay. That is extremely, extremely difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been married twice. I'm on my second marriage now. Neither of my my ex-wife and my current wife are not addicts or addicts in any way. My first ex did not understand it at all. Thought it was a choice. But she just didn't want to do any research on it, and didn't want to to learn anything about it. My parents think of it as a weakness. You know, they're from that generation where the bums all drank. You know what I mean? The hobos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they see it as just a weakness, a personality weakness. Getting them to understand it. This time with my wife, I think I handled it a little bit more with kid gloves. And you have to be accepting of all the stuff you do. And what I try to do is not let them make excuses for the way that I acted. And it happens a lot. When we're together in situations, we'll talk about something that happened, and people will be like, well, Scott, this was going on when you did. And I'll be like, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I did that. I was an alcoholic. I was drinking, and I did that. Or I didn't do that. Something I should have done. Don't let people make excuses for you. Don't let them take the power away from them making excuses for things that you do, and own them and be like, this is what I did. And the reason why I did it is because I'm an alcoholic and I make bad decisions. And that was a terrible thing to do. And I'm doing things to make sure I don't do it moving forward.
Right.
And getting them to, there's a lot of treatment type groups that families can join that, you can learn all kinds of things about addiction. So that's another thing, is get them involved in different, and
let them see what you do.
Programs that are for families.
Get them involved in what you do too is also another thing too, is seeing what they do, what you do. Like saying, okay, well, if you could sit here and do what I do, like on YouTube and stuff, it's a lot harder to sit there and just say, okay, here, click here, go here, type in here, and go live.
Yep.
Yeah. Shut the door. Again.
There's people with Ken.
Hey, Ken. But there was also another question. It says, do you think being addicted to vaping is a positive addiction compared to smoking?
Yep. Absolutely. I had a Facebook conversation with somebody today that posted this ridiculous video versus vaping. It was absurd. It was basically like saying all these toxins are in e-juice and that, over the, they basically were comparing it directly to smoking and saying it was less healthy for you than smoking.
Yeah, I've seen that one where it was a reverse of everything that we've said.
Yeah. And it's like, dude, please do some research. But the thing about it is, it's harm reduction versus cigarettes. And yeah, it should, ultimately we shouldn't put anything in our lungs besides air. That's it. So it's not like you're going to be healthy from vaping, but you're doing harm reduction to what you were doing if you were going to continue to smoke. And that's the way you need to look at it. And getting people that have smoked for 10, 15 years, 5 years, 1 year over to vaping is a good idea. Mm-hmm. It is something that, as a community, we need to do.
Yeah. I mean, being in the hospital, I spoke with the respiratory therapist because they actually came in after 4 or 5 days of being in the hospital, their air is very dry and your throat starts to get a little dry. I'm on a CPAP machine, at night, and I'm starting to get a little wheezy, so because it dries out your esophagus and everything, having all that dry air when they don't have a humidifier attached to it.
Yeah.
So I was getting a little, okay, it's a little dry in here. I need moisture, right. And not being able to vape either in a hospital for that many days, which I could, did I? I had a pod system. I snuck a few when I was going to the bathroom. You could only do it because there's a shower in the bathroom. You know that the fire isn't going to go off for a little steam. But the thing is that they came in and she's like, "Oh, popcorn lung." That's the words that came out of her mouth was popcorn lung. Because when I sit there and said I'm a vapor, and she goes, "Oh yeah, we were doing research on that. And isn't that where you get popcorn lung?" I'm like, "No, unless you're working at a popcorn factory."
Right. That's not.
And I'm like, I go, "You're getting really bad information." I go, and plus those 4,000 chemicals, all those toxins and everything that they're putting on the tobacco leaves and everything, compared to the 4 or 5 chemicals that I have in my vape, I'll take the 4 chemicals over the 4,000 pesticides and all the other inhibited, the things I was addicted to was smoking over that, and I'll take my chances. That's what I told her. Is I'll take the chances because you know what, I feel better and I'm not on those four breathing treatments that a day that I was on, and all those inhalers that you're trying to pump into me now, because you have me in an environment where it's very dry, very irritating to my lungs, all the PG that's in the air that they're sucking out, and and germs. You feel more sick going in you feel more sick going out of the hospital than you are in the hospital.
Right.
But I was like, almost like I felt hurt, like I'm like, you're a respiratory therapist and you're not doing your research. All these, new products that are coming out. And I told her, I go, so you're willing to stick a nicotine patch on me and tell me it's regulated and it's safe for me?
Right.
When I have very dry skin and you sit there, no, I have irritation skin and very sensitive skin. I'll sit there and tell you, put it on my skin, put it on your skin, and see if it absorbs quicker. Because my skin's not like yours. You can't sit there and tell me it's regulated. And then you actually have to be warning labels on that saying, please don't put in an area where it can be pressed on.
Brian had a comment in here that I think is something that we should definitely look at. And what it refers to, so it says, it's funny because when you first go to rehab, they try to find out what was fucked up in your life that made you an addict. Then when you go to the rooms, and when he refers to going to the rooms, he means 12-step programs. That's what that's referring to. They say that you own up and don't make excuses for it. Now, my take on that is when you start, I think you need to look back. You need to do reflection in your life to kind of figure out what are the inner issues that made you look for it. Because all alcoholism was to me was an escape. It was escape, as a cure for boredom. It was all these things that, I just didn't have in my life. So that's basically why I ended up, becoming an alcoholic. And there's a lot of things that play into that, obviously. And those are things you need to be aware of. Now, in recovery, though, once you've, in my opinion, once you've gotten past the part to know why you are an addict, okay? In recovery, though, it is about ownership of your actions. You have to own your actions. You have to be 100% responsible for them. And then you have to, most 12-step programs, and the way that I live my life is I take responsibility for the things that I do wrong, and I make quick action to make sure that I rectify those situations. Not so much for the person a lot of times, but for myself. So when I get up in the morning and I look in the mirror and be like, I did this, but you know what? I owned up to it. I said I did it. I spoke to that person about it. And it takes a lot of courage a lot of times, because a lot of things that you don't want to say to people. And it's much easier, especially as an alcoholic. For me, it was much easier just to like get away from that conversation and just move on. You know what I mean? And ignore it and not even worry about the damage that I did to them or to myself, or whatever, than it is to actually confront the situation and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is wrong, blah, 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 and talk it out. So I think, the differences between going into rehab and then going into, once you come out of rehab and go into the rooms, it's not a bad thing, because it's a slippery slope when you start blaming everything that you've done in your life on things that happen to you, or things, that are wrong in your life. That's a very slippery slope. And that's what a lot of addicts get into. A lot of drunks get into that. We basically just say, oh, well, this person did this to me, and this person did this to me, and that's, feel sorry for me. And if you're going to stay in that, that's part of getting in recovery, is getting out of that mind frame. That's a really, really good point, Brian. Really
there
good.
Was another question that was asked that vaping at Pete's place. So I hit the nail on the head. Do you think there's something to do with being creative, or creative is part of being addictive? I think it's both. I think a lot of creative people are very addictive. They have addictive personalities.
Right.
Their creativity is just all over the place, and they just are drawn to things that shiny squirrel, hello, and they'll grab at it. It's like, that's me. My kids will come in and I'm like, oh. I'd lose train of thought, shiny squirrel.
Yep, that's what I do all the time. Have you ever watched my show? In a nutshell.
It's me. I went to a school parent teachers conference with my kids. My kids were on the kind of like the thing for like disabilities and stuff like that. My daughter she had a speech disability because she was missing her 2 front teeth. Okay, they put her in a speech therapist because she was missing a tooth from the time she was 2. She missed her. She had her big one pulled at a young age, so she was always speaking with a little lisp. And so when she would talk in full circles. She would talk and then stop, go to another topic, stop, and then go right back to the topic she started with and end. And they go, "That's a disability." I'm like, I do that. You can't sit there. I'm like, is it a learning disability? Because maybe she's learned it from me. I'm like, how is that a disability if she goes right back on track and goes back to the question? Oh, because she needs to finish the topic.
Right.
That's a disability. Everything's a disability anymore. And it's like, stop crushing people, because that's making them have a disability.
That white guy, what's up, man? How you doing? I didn't say hi to everybody. I normally say hi to everybody. So hello, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Yes.
BlackCat.
I'm Nikki.
There you go. So that white guy asked, is there really a reason why people become addicts, or is it just a choice? I think, I know for me that I can't make a choice. Now, I can't recall back when I first started drinking, because it was a long time ago, if there was a choice. And I'm assuming there was, because that makes logical sense. I wasn't drinking coming out of the womb. You know what I mean? So I did make a choice to drink. I will say this now, that if I start drinking tonight, if I get off this show and I go up to the convenience store and buy beer or whatever, wine, and I start drinking, I have no choice. I will not be able to stop. I can't stop once I start. So in that respect, there is no choice for me. My brain is fucked up. And once I start drinking, I can't stop. And I know people who aren't addicts are like, what do you mean by that? You can't just go out and have a beer and have one? No, I can't do that. Like, my brain does not work. I tried it, and it cost me 5 more years of my life. I had over 2 years of recovery from 2009 to 2011. And I went out and got drunk one time. And that first time I got drunk, it just cascaded right down. And I went right back to where I was right before I stopped. Picked it right back up. There was no ramp up time. I was right back into it one time. And people say that you hear that in the rooms a lot, that, you can't just have one. Don't do it. You'll just pick up. It's all true. And that's I'm a living example of that. It cost me 5 more years of my life. And I went back out. I know that and I don't know, they always say, how many more recoveries do you have in you? And I don't think I have any more. I literally almost drank myself to death, pretty much. I was close. I mean, it was I was getting sick. Everything was falling apart. And I don't mean, not just everything around me, but, my health was falling apart. You only have so many recoveries. You know what I mean?
Well, when your health is falling apart, it's only one life you got.
Yeah. I was lucky enough that I didn't lose my job. I didn't lose my marriage this time. I was very, very lucky. But if that would have happened, if I wouldn't have went into recovery, I was going to lose my job. There was no doubt about it. And I was going to lose my marriage. But
how was your job accepting about, like, if you had to, did you go into like the recovery center or?
So no.
You just went to Okay. Well, that's the thing, is a lot of people are so addicted that they have to go into recovery centers, and that makes it totally difficult.
I went to recovery. Yeah. I had to go to a detox.
Yeah.
With alcohol is really, really dangerous. Alcohol and benzos are really, really dangerous to yourself. You can have a seizure and die. And you actually have an alcoholic where I was, I had about a 70% chance of making it without a detox. So I had to have a medical supervised detox, just for safety, you know what I mean? But no, for work, as far as work goes, I think they were a little standoffish. And I remember when I came back from being out, they were, they didn't really want to give me a lot of work back, and they were just afraid, because you see all the TV shows and you don't understand, and you think, well, he's just going to go right back out again. You hear the statistics.
Right.
He's just going to start drinking again. So why are we going to give him any responsibilities here? Let's just get him out of here.
Right. You're more of a liability than you are anything to improve otherwise.
And so what did I do? To gain, I had to earn people's respect and confidence back. So what did I do? I started talking at my recovery center. Every chance they'd give me, hey, will somebody talk? Yeah, I'll talk. And I would just go around the recovery centers, go talk to people. And then I started doing this show. And I make it known to the people I work with that I do it. I have a show that I do, recovery. I'm in recovery. You can watch the show, hear about my fucked up life, But, you almost have to reprove yourself back to people like that.
So the show is more like your recovery. You are the recovery
part.
You're not calling in as much as you used to. So in a sense, you found your niche of being able to talk to people and feeling that self-satisfaction of, okay, I may have touched somebody. I may have, I got what I needed off my chest, for that day. Maybe something bugged you, something was really funny that day that kind of got you that high, which I know that you get really hyper and everything. And it makes your day, or sometimes you've had a down day, and it shows in every aspect of the way. So in a sense, I think that is a new addiction, but yet it's a better platform.
Right.
Because it's not tapped into this market a lot of, maybe this could be another way of another 12-step program of people talking to each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, the whole point of the show, and we say this every week, man, but the whole point of this show is if we help one person, that was our goal the whole time. And we never thought we'd get the response that we did. And
I think you've touched more than one person. I think 39 of them right now. Because they're here.
Yeah.
And they're not here for me. They're here for you. They're here for the show. They're here for just sit there and see and be entertained. And you are the entertainer now. You found your niche. A lot of people, they go through our life until they find their niche. Yeah. And you are the helpful one, the one that would stop their show in 2 seconds to help somebody. Saying, hey, I really need to talk to somebody right now. Yeah. You'd probably stop your show and say, hey, I gotta go.
It's hard,
Yeah.
there's a lot to it, and you become leery, I think, of a lot of times of, I had a friend, a good friend that I helped get into recovery. I talked about this about 6 months ago. I helped him get in recovery. Came over to my house like one morning, and we went down and got him in rehab and did all that. And he came out and he was doing great. And we were going to meetings and we were doing stuff. And all of a sudden, I get a call one night, and he got arrested, and fought the cop, and now he's going to be doing time. And it's like,
Well, he's doing his recovery during time.
What's that?
During recovery during the time.
And the thing about it is, it's like, for things like that happen, he fell off the wagon, obviously, and got back into drinking and doing things like that. And he was lying. And that's what we do. We lie constantly. You know what I mean? So something's not anything that's like surprising.
You have to be ready. I mean, that's all the things too, is you have to want to quit in order for recovery to stick.
Yeah.
It's just like switching over to any addiction. You got to want to quit one thing or find or trade off for one. Just like I had to find another niche too, where I couldn't crochet. I was an avid crocheter. I would be crocheting from the time yarns went on sale around wintertime. I would buy up in stock, and everybody's Christmas gift would be made before the end of Christmas. And I'd have them all in a box and like, look what I made through the year. Here you go. And it was, I would be watching a movie and just crocheting away. And they're like, queen size quilt. Oh my God, Nikki, I'm like, it's just my time. And now it's like, I have no time.
And the thing about it is that when people, where I was going with it is like, you have to almost, you have to be kind of wary. You become jaded a little bit because you try to help people get in recovery, and then when they don't make it, you have to not let that stop you from wanting to help people.
Right.
I talk to people all the time, but at the same time, I am just a drunk. That's all I am. I'm just sharing what happened to me. What I'm telling you, may work for you, may not work for you. Or the whole purpose of this is to get people talking about it. That's the whole purpose of it, and to get people to accept it, accept who they are. You know what I mean? And then make decisions that can help you, help your family, help your loved ones. That's what this is all about. It's not to tell there's no way I can tell you to get sober. There's no way. I couldn't even talk myself into getting sober. You know what I mean? So there's no way I can talk you into getting sober. But just to be supportive of people and do the best you can. And I mean, everybody who comes to me about it, I'm like, dude, how far? The question is like, I have alcoholics that come to me a lot, and they're like, the first thing I ask them is how much do you drink? And they'll usually, alcoholic's funny because we'll give you half. We'll tell you half. I drink about 4 or 5 mixed drinks a night. Okay,
so about 8, 9.
So you drink about 15 mixed drinks a night. Okay. Well, you need to go to rehab. Well, I don't want to go to rehab. Well, if you stop drinking how much you're drinking right now, you're going to fucking die. So you need to go to rehab and get a medical detox, or you have a really good chance of dying. So that's pretty much what I tell people most of the time anyway. You know what I mean? Just get into some kind of rehab and find out what your insurance can do for you. There's programs out there that will help. They'll sponsor you or give you scholarship. If you're really, really serious, people will help you. You know what I mean?
13 years. Wow. Excellent. Mm-hmm. Congratulations.
Yeah, not just alcoholics. You're right.
Yeah. Nope. Nope. No, touching people in the wrong places is an addiction too.
BlackCat touchy face. People love to like throw my name around. Like people love to like take my name and like rearrange it around. They love doing that. It's pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that I don't think any addiction, well, with drugs and alcohol and stuff like that, just find out what makes you happy, though. I mean, like my sister is a hoarder. And we try to figure out for a long time. And what started her off on, collecting things, and just keeping everything. It fell all the way back to when we moved one time.
Mm.
We moved and she sold, my mom and dad, we sold everything in an auction. Everything was sold in an auction so we could move out of state. That's how people do. They sell everything in a big auction. And well, guess what? Holly Hobby toy box was her addiction.
Holly Hobby toy boxes?
Yeah. You remember Holly Hobby?
No.
It was like it was a doll toy box. It was a toy box that had like a shelf and a little chalkboard, and it was made out of like really, really thin wood, and it had Holly Hobby on it. She loved Holly Hobby, and that was sold, and she was devastated. And for then on, she collected everything. She has 2 storage sheds in the back of her house full of nothing but totes of clothes for kids that she never even had. Like she'd get pregnant. Oh, I think it's a boy. She'd go out and buy a whole bunch of boy clothes and put them in tucker totes. And she didn't have a boy, but they stayed in the tucker tote. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, okay, then it started off on other things. Her kids didn't want to do it. So her kids adapted that thing. Oh, I don't want to throw away this shoe, but you can't find the other shoe, but yet it's missing half of a sole. The kid would go nuts, because you're trying to throw their shoe away. It becomes an addictive behavior pattern. And it all fell back down to she kept on blaming my mother over a Holly Hobby. I'm like, I'm going to find that Holly Hobby toy box one of these days and put it on her porch and say, now get rid of some of the stuff. Because I tried to go in, and I know I've watched all the hoarder shows and stuff like that. And I know not to throw anything away. Just organizing is what she is overwhelmed. Of organization too. So organizing, it helps, but the addiction process of, okay, you're going to go through these and we're going to digitize these later. Okay. That's a thing. Okay. Magazines, like 3 stories high, because she wants 2 recipes out of it, but she doesn't want to damage the magazine to get to the.
That's such a weird, hoarding to me is that, a lot of people don't understand. Like I can understand, like how somebody gets addicted to opiates, or I can understand how somebody gets addicted to like cocaine or even gambling. I can understand that. I can't understand hoarding. I can't understand it.
It's kind of like, okay, if you have 10 vapes on your desk, okay, and somebody were to come in and like rob you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I know you got more, but I'm just saying you have 10. Okay. And you were to get robbed. Okay. You would either, like me, I became almost a hermit in my house. I was robbed. I went to a doctor's appointment, came home to find my house, everything on the bottom floor, electronic wise, gone. And I felt violated in every sense because all my neighbors that surrounded me did nothing.
Yeah.
To stop somebody coming in my house and taking my stuff. And I'm like, well, if I'm at home, they can't take it away.
Right.
Well, found out 2 weeks later, I was at home and they tried to steal my van. So I'm like, I'm not safe in my own home. So I wanted to move. My brain set was, we have to leave. We have to move. We have to get out of this place or something bad's going to happen, and that, well, brain set we moved and a fire happened 2 weeks later. Not at that place, at the place we just moved in. So I'm like, okay, this is just real weird. But yeah, in my mindset, it takes one thing to trigger. Like I never still feel safe. Doors have to be locked. Did you make sure the back door was locked? Did you make sure you put the broomstick in? Did you make sure that, these things go through my head every time I go to the doctor's, or go out or go shopping or something, because I'm always afraid somebody's going to come in and rob.
I got broken into twice, and within like 2 months, and they did the exact same thing to me. And
you feel violated, don't you?
It was weird because so here's the situation. It's like we had kids in our old neighborhood that we lived in that were going in and breaking into houses, and everybody knew who it was. Everybody knew the group of kids that it was. It's pretty prevalent through the community, and we got hit. And my thought process at the time was there was nothing in my house of real major value. Okay. But I do have firearms. I mean, you know, that's just, I have firearms and, you know, some that I've collected and some that I use for hunting and some that I use for protection. And the thing that pissed me off the most out of the whole situation was two things. One, my wife, the first time that we got broken into, my wife arrived like minutes after it happened. Like she arrived like right before the police did. Like they must have heard the police. Like she came in, the police were like at her door thinking that like, what the hell is going on here type thing. Somebody had called the police and they had left. And then my wife got there and the police got there. So so I'm like, wow, you know, what if you would have walked into that? What would you have walked into that and they would have hurt you? Right.
Right.
But what also pissed me off is that the situation they would have put me in. Like I said, I have firearms and I have access to them and I know how to use them. And, you know, do I really want the blood of four 16-year-old kids on my hand that I end up, you know, coming in my house, threatening me, and then I have to shoot them? You know what I mean? And it's like, you can say, well, yeah, you have a decision whether you're going to shoot them or not. But what you have to take into account is if somebody shocks you and you don't know what's going on and you have access to a firearm and I get the firearm or they get the firearm, somebody's going to get shot. Right. Somebody's going to get shot. And so I didn't like that I was put in that situation. The stuff that I lost, really, I was like, I mean, I did lose some valuable stuff, but it was just I guess that is a violation. You know what I mean? They're violating my
privacy, my personal,
you know, you're putting me in a situation where I'm more than likely going to shoot you. And that is not something I want on my conscience. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to think that I did that to somebody.
Well, see, the things that they took were replaceable. You know, it was PlayStation games that my kids collected, you know. They took my husband's PlayStation. They took the cable box, which I didn't understand that one. But then and then I get hit with the whammy afterwards of oh, guess what? You have to pay a $250 deductible on your cable box.
Yep.
That I go, God, they just hit me in my gut. Even though they're like, well, if you would have had renter's insurance, I'm like, renter's insurance? I've never even thought about renter's insurance. It was like, this is my hometown. I moved back from Columbus. I was never robbed in Columbus. Everybody says you're going to get robbed in the city. You're going to get violated in the city. You're going to get hurt. And I never, the worst I got in Columbus, in the city of Columbus, because come on, you know, we're from Ohio. Worst I got in Columbus was the weirdest thing. Drive-by shoveling. Walk-by shoveling. I always call it a drive-by, but because, you know, he walked by, he got mad at one of the neighbors because I used to take him around all the places and stuff. He decided to take a shovel and smash my van window. And it took 3 hits to smash it in. And I heard from the backyard, I heard boom, boom. And I heard shh. And I'm like, that's glass. I'm like, and then I ran to the front yard. I was like, what the? And he was drunk. He was dragging the shovel down the road with him. And I'm like, you son of a, and he goes, he's drunk. I go, I don't care who he is, you know? His brother came and goes, he's drunk. And I go, well, know what I want? I go, I want that. I was in a mad state. I want that SOB to come to my house, apologize, pay for my window.
Right.
And apologize to my face because he violated not just my personal property because I didn't do anything to him. Apologize to my face. You're not a man unless you can apologize to somebody's face, you know, and just sit there and he couldn't even look me in the eyes and say he was sorry. Right. Because he was so like, I really don't know what I did wrong because he was in the drunken state. You know, like I got mad. Well, he goes, well, how much is it going to cost to get your van? I go, well, at a pick and pull, I can get it for $20. I go, you going to give me about $25? And I go, and don't ever come near my van again. Mm-hmm. And I could have put him in jail, you know, for vandalism and stuff like that. But I mean, come on, he would have been out and I still would have been out without a window. Yeah. And then you have to deal with him. Like if you put him in jail, then you have to deal with them, like, you know, the brothers, the sisters, and yeah. Well, when he gets out, yeah, you know, you put me in jail. People get mad about it. Yeah, they retaliate in Columbus. I know they do.
That's where I got broken into. You know, the neighborhood I lived in, my son got in a fight with like 15 kids. And when I say it was, you know, but it wasn't 15, it wasn't like 7-on-8 or like even like 6-on-9. It was 1-on-14. He was basically against 14 other kids. I called the police. I went out there. I'm getting punched like in the face. I'm on my cell phone trying to break this thing up, telling the police, this is Columbus, Ohio, telling the police, there's a riot pretty much out front of my house. I need the police sent here to help break this up. They transferred me to another department. They didn't even, okay, hold on. And they transferred me. They're like, you called the wrong place. I'm like, I hit 911. They're like, yeah, you're in the wrong one. We're going to send you to another one. I'm like, no, really? Really? So I heard hold music. When I heard hold music, I just set the phone, put the phone in my pocket and commenced to getting the shit beat out of me by like 10, like 16-year-old kids. It was awful.
Well, I lived in I lived in drug areas and stuff like that. A lot of people are like, why can't you live in here? I'm like, they ain't heard me. You know, my God, shoot, they're the best protection around, man. All of them got guns. I don't even need one. You know, and that's the fun part about not the fun part, but I was with my husband and we were out with my youngest, and my ex had the other two, and I come home and all the streets blocked off, and I'm going, what the hell happened? And they go, you didn't hear? I'm like, no, I didn't hear. I was out. And they're like, well, somebody did a drive-by and shot up. It was 2 houses. They stopped at our house, the section of our house, stopped shooting, and then shot up the other half a double, and they kept on going on. And I'm like, they thought they knew us. And I'm like, well, my kids are always out front playing.
Yeah.
And they're the only kids in that area, you know. And I'm like, they probably know us, but I didn't do it. You know, I'm like, why would I shoot anybody up? I'm like, but then they're going, you better be up on your top floors probably in the next couple of days because they're going to retaliate. So we knew what retaliate meant was you kept up or kept really low. Well, the next day they retaliated on the back side of the houses and shut up the whole back of the houses. They were after somebody. Mm-hmm. Well, they did shoot one kid in the leg. He was actually sleeping on the couch and it went through the house and right into his leg.
All right. Well, I hate to wrap it up already.
Yeah, it went by quick.
Yeah, it went quick. It always does. That's one thing we always say how fast it goes because you just get to talking and it just goes.
Yeah, everybody has a life and stories, and it's little bits and pieces that you just don't know about each other. That's where I think that everybody's book is a different page. So
yeah,
read the book from cover to cover, not beginning to end.
There you go.
Just not the beginning, not the end.
So anyway, I just want to thank her first. Thanks, Nikki B, for hanging out with me today. I was all disheveled. I didn't know I didn't know what all was going on. So I really appreciate you walking me through all this and
no problem.
Thank you.
Anytime.
So anyway, thanks everybody who watched. I hope it was I didn't want to leave you guys hanging. Now, let's all give good thoughts to Yeti and hope that he gets better. I know that he's in a lot of pain and he just didn't think it'd be fair to do it because he didn't want to have to be distracted by that. And I completely agree with him. I wanted to give you guys an hour, a little bit because I didn't want to, I felt like I was disappointing just because we had it planned. We're going to be back next week. We're going to be back with Drop the Shame on Yeti's Uncle's YouTube channel next week at the regular time, 9:00. And we will see you guys then. We'll have a guest and everything. So get ready and we'll be back next week. Thanks everybody for joining. I really, really appreciate it. I love you guys. Let's have a vape, as Tommy would say.
Let's have a vape.
Let's have a vape and get out of here. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.